Hello everyone and welcome to An Audience with the President. My name's Alf Hurst and I'm going to be your chair for this next hour. It's great to see so many people here from around the world, and if you're joining us for the recording, thanks for stopping by and finding out what we got up to. My first duty as chair is to hand over to the President himself, Minister David Bruton, who will introduce our guest today.
Thank you, Al. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to everyone, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us tonight. One of our most popular contributors in the last run, and I speak, of course, of Mavis Pittilla, OSNU. Her gifts of the Spirit have shaped her life's journey, and over the years, through her mediumship, teaching, books and CDs, she has literally helped and changed the lives of thousands and thousands of people. Mavis was with us in the first series, and it's really wonderful to welcome her back. I think if I remember rightly, she was one of a panel last time, but tonight, Mavis, we've got you all to ourselves, which is wonderful. So welcome, Mavis Pittilla, OSNU. Thank you so much for being with us. It's wonderful.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It's lovely to be with the President, isn't it? I feel elevated.
I love it. I love it. So as usual, ladies and gentlemen, Mavis and I are going to talk for a little while. We're going to share some thoughts about where we see the future of spiritualism moving, and then we're going to open up the lines and you will have your opportunity to ask any questions that you've got of Mavis. I know the hour always seems to go incredibly quickly, and more so when we have a special guest with us. So let's get underway. And I'd like to begin, Mavis, by asking you if you can share with the audience tonight your very, very first experience of spirit.
My very first experience of spirit was just before I was this age, and I saw an old man, and he was stood behind the television, and he told me to go and find a healer or I wouldn't hear the New Year bells. Now, I saw this man as clearly as I'm seeing you, and I heard his voice as clearly as you can hear mine. And it was quite a shock indeed. But from there, then, seeing the spirit world and hearing them talk to me, was quite normal and quite natural. It was so natural. And I think that if there is a problem with mediumship is if we start off natural because we're just there. We're not having to deliver it to anyone. We're not having to wait for the yes or the no. So that connection that we have with them, because it's so personal, I think it is as it is. So for me, I really needed somewhere to go and use my mediumship, because you need to work with it, don't you? And I'm sure all of you know what I mean by that. And, you know, I was so natural. I didn't feel that I needed to change my thinking. I didn't need to be spiritual. I didn't know anything about my soul. I didn't know anything about my spirit. I didn't know anything about the power. I really just was seeing the spirit. That's what I saw, and that's what I heard. But thank God I found a spiritualist church, because really that is what totally changed my life and changed my belief in life after death, and to become a spiritualist. And it took me a long time to become changed from being a Christian to becoming a spiritualist. It didn't happen because I was a medium. It happened because of the philosophy and the knowledge that I was given. And of course, I was very, very lucky because I met Gordon Higginson quite early on in my development. So, you know, when he started to talk to me about God, and he started to talk to me about the power and the spirit, he started to make me think. And I remember they wouldn't let me work at the churches because I was in miniskirts with my hair piled up and my white plastic boots. They wouldn't let me work because they thought I was too young with my hair piled up, and who was this woman, this young girl, they called me, this young girl who thinks that she can get up and see the spirit world. So it was a strange encounter at the beginning. But I think that for many of us, when we see the spirit world for the first time, it is amazing. It's just amazing to see them. But then when you start to go under tuition, your mediumship has to change. It becomes unnatural because, of course, when you're at home in your own home, you're not waiting for the yeses or nos. You've just got this lovely connection with them. And then suddenly it all changes. And, you know, not everybody does see spirit. Not everybody hears spirit. But I know that happened to me, David, and it took me a long time to become a spiritualist. I was a medium first,
And then
a spiritualist later on.
Okay, so you told me yesterday that you were brought up in the Church of England. So what was it like that first time you actually stepped foot in the spiritualist church? Did you go on your own, or did you go with friends, or?
So I went with my husband, actually, because he's actually, they thought I was dying, actually. I was very, very sick, and I'd been given 3 months to live. So I'd started to see these spirits, and I'd started to hear these spirits, and the whole family thought, well, you know, it's either the medication is doing this, or, you know, an evil spirit's got her, or something.
Yes.
So for me to step into the spiritualist church, I was taken not under duress really, but because they needed to try and sort me out. My family wanted to sort me out, and they wanted to shut it down.
Yes.
Because they thought it was totally wrong. But I walked in and I just felt at home. I just felt as if I'd come to a safe place. And that's where I was. I'd gone to a safe place.
I think so many people say that, Mavis. So many people actually, you know, that's their first impression of work. They don't know what it is, but they walk into something and they just feel at home, they feel comfortable, and that is very, very special.
It is special.
Yeah, absolutely. So can I ask you then, how has your mediumship developed and changed over the years?
Oh, it's changed dramatically, because the more knowledge you gain about the theory behind it and the relationship that you need with the spirit world, it changes you and you become more responsible to your mediumship. I think at the beginning, when I started out, it was kind of, well, I stand up there and I get a lot of yeses and everybody's clapping me and everybody's stroking my head and telling me how wonderful I am. And it was fabulous. Okay, it was just fabulous. Here's this cotton mill girl that never had anybody saying well done to. You know, it wasn't that kind of world that I grew up in. And for a little while, I think it went to my head. I'm sure it did go to my head. And it was only really when Gordon kind of started to say to me, but you know, this isn't about you. This isn't about you. This is a ministry. You have to minister. You have to learn. You have to understand this other world that you're working with. Because, of course, I wasn't really, how can I put this? I wasn't really involved with the spirit world. I was involved with the people here. So, you know, I didn't hear the spirit world saying well done to me. I just heard the people here saying well done. So, of course, the change comes gradually. The change comes gradually, but it does come through the theory and the philosophy behind spiritualism, the 7 principles, and the spirit world. You can't actually, on the other thing, of course, David, when they first worked with me, it was amazing because they told me everything. I got to the stage where I'd say, now what colour should I have on today? You know, I became ridiculous. Can you find me a car park space?
Oh, yes.
And found me one, you know, all that. So I went through all that rigmarole, okay, until eventually God's a blind miller. He grinds us all exceedingly small, and then we become good food for other people. And I believe with Gordon's help, that's what he did.
Did Gordon ever give you any insight into what the future held for you, or what kind of mentor or tutor or teacher was he?
Well, the first time that when I'd been working with Gordon and I went to Longton Church to work, you had to do, and I'm sure you know this, David, it was called Bright Hour. So it was an afternoon session.
Yeah.
And they had all the committee would go to Bright Hour. And you didn't know that you were being assessed. You just didn't know it. You'd just gone to do Bright Hour, which sounds wonderful, doesn't it? Absolutely wonderful. But it isn't really. You're being put through the mill. You know, you really are. You're being. So anyway, I did Bright Hour, and then they went back to Gordon and talked to Gordon. And then it was during Christmas period, and they were having a party, and he said, would you like to come to my home to the party? Well, you know, it blew my fuses. But he said, you know, Mavis, you will one day be a success with this for spiritualism. And that was right. And then later on, a few years later, I was with him with another medium that he was training, because I wasn't the only medium that he trained. He trained a lot of mediums that you will never hear of, whose names you won't know. You know, you'll hear Paul being mentioned, Mavis being mentioned, Simon's being mentioned, Glyn being mentioned, but he trained so many. And they're still the roots of the churches, really. So, you know, he didn't just change, he didn't just do one or two. Okay. He would take a group of people and he would nurture them. Some wonderful names I could give you that you've probably never heard of. But if you look at the standard of their belief in spiritualism and their belief in the spirit world, it's amazing. Okay, so I'm there with another guy, and we're invited to his home for coffee. And he said, he went into trance, and his control said, Mavis, you will one day teach at the Arthur Findlay College. Well, I couldn't believe it, and neither could the guy who was with me. He thought he'd just give me, you know, he should, you know, I think he's made a mistake there, Mavis. He's talking to me, not you. Okay. And I believed him, because this cotton mill girl, ever working at a college for psychic and mediumistic studies, when I didn't really at the time understand a lot of the terminology that we use. So I kind of put that on the back burner, but he was right. He was right.
And you, I mean, you were there, as I said in the introduction, from the late 60s. And obviously the college was very different then to what it
very much so. You'd not survive a week at the college. People wouldn't. They wouldn't survive a week, because we didn't have group work.
Right.
We sat and we listened to lectures. That's all we had. And one day, whoever was running the week would look out at the and we were on hardback chairs. Yes. You know, the old-fashioned school chairs. That's what we sat on in the library. We were packed like sardines. Yes. And we would sit from early morning, right the way through. We'd do the meditation, the quiet time, the lecture, the talk. It would just go on. We never got the opportunity to work at all, unless the person who was organizing the week would say, I'd like you, and I'd like you, and I'd like you to do a student's demonstration for us. Well, the first time I was asked to do it, I fell off my seat. I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink, I couldn't do anything. Okay, so it's a totally different place now, the college. It's more relaxed. I mean, you didn't go up to one of the tutors and start talking to them. You never did that. You just would not dare go up and say, I disagree with what you say. You know, it wouldn't have been heard of in my day. In my day, it would have been keep a zip on your mouth and keep your eyes down. And if they do tap you on the shoulder, then just sit up straight. Okay. So it was quite a different atmosphere to what it is today. Of course, it was Arthur Findlay's home when I went. It really hadn't changed that much. It hadn't changed much at all. I mean, Mrs. Findlay's, the Blue Room, if anybody's been to the college, we have a room that's called the Blue Room. I'm saying we, and of course I don't work at the college anymore. But the Blue Room had all Mrs. Findlay's sewing box was in there, her cups and her saucers, and her own photographs of her children were up, you know, not like it is today.
Did you ever meet the Findlays, Mavis?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No, I didn't. No, I really came in towards the end, but I did meet, you know, the retainer, Mrs. Findlay's retainer. That's the chief, the head housekeeper. She was actually still at the college when I went. Oh, she was a battle axe. She didn't like anything we did. Anything we did, you know, because it was Findlay's home to her.
You were turning it upside down.
And of course, we were going in with vacuum cleaners and paint brushes, and we were doing everything. Okay. I mean, one of the funniest things that I did was trying to find a toilet in the middle of the night with my lighter, trying to get my lighter to stay on while I'm walking down these dark corridors trying to get to the loo. Okay, so funny, but wonderful, wonderful experience. A wonderful experience. You know, and I do feel that we're missing, well, in my opinion, and it is only my opinion, I think that we're not talking about the spirit world enough. We're not talking about that real world. You know, they're not a figment of our imagination, and they're neither genies in bottles where we can rub the lamp and say, please give me your first name and your second. It's not like that. You're talking about real people who went through a real life, and we have to respect that life. And that's what makes it so absolutely rewarding when the spirit world said to you, thank you very much.
Yes.
It's not so much people here, but people in the spirit world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very special gift, and it's a wonderful experience to be part of it, undoubtedly.
Absolutely.
So, Mavis, our world has been slightly turned upside down by this pandemic that we're all dealing with. Do you see mediumship changing post-COVID?
I think it'll have to do. I think that what I know, and particularly because online is never going to go away now, so demonstrating online is going to become the norm. And of course, demonstrating mediumship online is totally different than having an audience, having a congregation. Because when you've got your audience, you've got all that power of those people that you can actually, your aura and their aura comes together and it builds and creates a power that actually helps to lift the veil between the two worlds. That's what happens. So of course we've lost that. All right. And secondly, I think that we have to change the evidence now.
Yeah.
Because in the past we could say, well, I've got a little old lady here who wore a cardigan, you know, and she had her slippers on, and, you know, she had false teeth and her hair was grey. That'll have to go eventually, because we're going to have to say, I've got Annie here, who was a little old lady, and she wants to talk to Betty on the earth. So we're going to have to tighten up because of the amount of people that are on the screen. And the evidence will have to get deeper, which means that our mediums are going to have to relax a lot more and really move away from the idea that it's evidence that they want. It isn't. It's the communication, because the communication that they want to bring, if we don't interfere with it, can be absolutely first class. You know, and I also think our healing has got to change.
Okay.
So healing the world is going to be very important, that we do really center. You know, we're a power. All mediums, all spiritualists, we're a power. you know, and because the world is changing, we have to integrate that divine spark of God in everything, in our prayers for the whole world. It can't be just unique individuals now. It has to be a reverence to the world more than it's ever been. That's my opinion.
Okay. Younger generations tend to shun organized religion. So how do we go about convincing them that spiritualism has something to offer?
Well, we have two problems, don't we? We have those people that come to our churches who are not mediums and don't feel that they're healers. How do we keep those people? All right, because we have to keep those people. We don't just want to keep the mediums. We don't just want to keep the healers. We want to keep everybody. So for me, I think it has to start with good, solid philosophy.
Yes.
Good sound philosophy that really encompasses everything that we believe in. And we need, I don't mean this to sound rude, but we need to move away from being boring.
Yes.
It can be boring,
Yes.
can't we? If we're honest, I don't know how many of you have listened to a dam or you've been to a Sunday service and you've fallen asleep, okay? And really, you know, for me, when I came into it, I really was not a speaker. I worked in a cotton mill, so I didn't do a lot of physical talking. Everything was done in sign language or, you know, just nodding our heads. So my vocabulary was very small. I also was very withdrawn and quite reserved and quite shy. So I had to do something about that. When I met Gordon, he said, "You'll have to change, Mavis, because you're going to have to understand everything. You're going to have to be able to widen your vocabulary. You're going to have to be able to speak to people. You can't just hide behind this cotton mill girl that you're doing." Because I was hiding behind being the cotton mill girl. He said, "You can't do that." He said, and so I actually did something about it. And I became very posh in my speaking. I learned how to speak properly. And then later on, of course, I got back to being me. But I'd learnt my lessons, okay? And I think that that is very important, that we make people aware that if they are going to stand on our platform, then make it interesting.
Yes.
Let people be aware of you. And if you do know that you're a bit boring, then do something about it. Spirit world can't do that for you. You've got to do that yourself. All right. So that's a bit blunt, isn't it? I do think we've got to get involved with charity work, which would cover the people who don't want to be on our platforms and don't want to be mediums and don't want to be healers, so that we're integrating them and they're still in service to spirit and they're still in service to God. So I think we could do charity links, social justice, healing. There's loads of things we could be talking about. And actually, I think our young people like to be doing.
Yes.
I don't like this. I don't think they like to be sitting. They want to be doing. And of course, we need people like we've got tonight. And I'm going to say your name wrong. I know Alvi. Have I said it right? Al.
Yes.
I knew I'd say it wrong. Okay. When we look at this technology, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could get young people in every church that had the technology to do what's being done tonight? You know, there's all these things that they could do, and I think that we can change, but I think we can keep our core value,
Yes.
which is our 7 principles.
Yes.
I think we can keep our core teachings that are our principles. I don't think we need to lose those.
Absolutely.
I do think we could do it that way. And we need laughter, don't we?
Yes.
So social nights and laughter and brightness we need. You know, we have a cup of tea after the service is finished, but it's usually just a nice nucleus of people. It's not the stranger that stays. And we've got to get the stranger involved, haven't we?
Absolutely. I think the church as we know it has to change. And the churches that are prepared to change are going to be the ones that are going to continue to be successful. And I think there's a message there for all of us. My view is that what's happened in the last 9 or 10 months, there's a purpose to it. I don't know what you think, Mavis, but you know, it's easy to bemoan that life's not the same and it's changed, and there are aspects of all of our lives are just not there at the moment for whatever reason. We were talking before we started about the joy of hugging one another, you know.
Yeah.
And that's just such a spiritualist thing to do, and I'm sure many people on the session will understand and feel that. You know, we've become, I mean, a lot of spiritualists are very tactile, and we can't be that anymore, and that's hard. It really is hard.
It's very, very hard, because of course when we're together we open our souls, and our souls express through our eyes, our ears, our hugging. That's our soul expressing. That's the God force expressing, isn't it? Which of course has changed. But I do think we can get that. But if I just go back to and I hope I'm not upsetting anyone when I say about, you know, try not to be boring. Remember, it's not the word you speak that people will remember. It will be how you made them feel.
Yes.
They won't remember the full philosophy, but they'll remember that you smiled at them. They'll remember that you showed them through your words and the way your voice, how it was. So I think that's a really good one for all of us to remember. They may not remember what we said, but more than anything, they'll remember how we made them feel. And this lady's called, and I won't get this right, David, because I'm hopeless. Maya Angelou.
No, Maya Angelou.
Maya Angelou.
Yes, I know. She's a wonderful writer.
I knew I would get it wrong. I knew. I'm hopeless. All right. Isn't it lovely to be able to say that instead of thinking you've got to be perfect? Okay. It's lovely to be imperfect, and I'm certainly that. Okay.
Me too, Mavis. I'm with you 100%. Before we actually open the evening, Mavis, for the many people I'm sure that want to ask questions, can I just ask you finally, is there one person from the history of spiritualism that you would have really loved to meet?
Emma Hardinge Britton.
Okay, why?
Because she had courage that was boundless. She did things that no woman was doing in that era.
Yes.
The other thing, I don't know if anybody is aware of what Emma did, but Emma actually took, actually opened charity things. She took care of women that were battered women, or women that were going through a bad time. So she didn't just do her mediumship, she actually did the rest of it to go with it. So that's what I love about her. But in one of the stories, it's about Emma get off the train, where the spirit world's telling her to get off the train, and she's in the middle of nowhere going across America, and the train stops to put its water in and get more coal, and the voice comes again, Emma, get off the train. And she's too afraid. She doesn't want to get off the train. She hears it again. She picks up a case and she gets off the train. And I think, am I that brave? Have I got that much faith? And that I've carried with me all the way through my life, mediumistically. Emma, get off the train. So if there's something I've got to do, I will trust that voice that tells me, Mavis, get off the train. That's how I see that. If I could just say, you know, if you don't mind me just going regressing a little bit, you know, Gordon actually said the churches had to change when he was alive. So this isn't new, it isn't new, is it?
Right.
You know, Gordon left that legacy behind us that we have to change. And I know some people have changed it from centres, churches have become centres, and that's what he advocated. I still like the word church.
Me too.
That's the beauty of spiritualism, because I can, you know, make my own decisions.
Yes.
Okay, but I thought that was rather lovely. But, you know, with Emma, we've got the gravestone now at Stansted. And the gravestone was not far from me when we found it. We found it very close by where we lived, and a group of us went and did a rubbing, and then it went down to a very wonderful lady, Linda, Tanya's mother, and she organised everything. And the gravestone's now at the college, which is lovely, and with David, I've got to say, had a part in it as well. So
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful.
It's funny because I took Linda's funeral on last Tuesday, and Tanya did the most amazing eulogy for her mother. And she talked about that day we stood in that cemetery in Manchester, you, myself, Tanya, and a group of other people. And when they'd raised the money to get the new gravestone to replace the one in Manchester and bring the one down to Stansted. And it was my first engagement as the newly elected president, and Tanya's first engagement as the general manager at the college. And it was just amazing. That's now over 10 years ago, and happy times, happy memories, very happy.
There was 2,000 people went to her funeral.
Yes.
Can you believe that?
Amazing.
1,000 people. It stopped the traffic. Absolutely. What a wonderful memory she's got in the world of the spirit. She must have felt very proud.
I'm sure she did. Absolutely. So now, Mavis, it's been lovely to talk to you, and I could talk to you all night, but I'm sure we've got people online that will want to ask you some questions. So I'm going to, at this point now, hand over to Alf, and he's going to bring forward anyone that would like to ask a question of Mavis.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Mavis. And now, you, the audience, it's now your opportunity. You have Mavis here, and you can ask a question or you can make a point. So what I'd like you to do is to raise your hand if you have something that you'd like to say or something that you'd like to ask, and I'm going to bring you into the room. So let's start with Tamara. Tamara, could you unmute your microphone, please, and come into the room?
Hi.
Hi, how are you, Tamara?
I'm good, Mavis. I'm a little exhausted from my hike yesterday, if you can't tell by my appearance. So my question is this. Mavis, you talk about trusting spirit and trusting Emma Harding, you know, how Emma Harding Britton trusted. I certainly want to trust, but, you know, there are those times when the left brain is still participating, or the conscious mind is still participating. And so I'm leery of trusting because of that.
If I could just say to you, darling, I didn't trust because I read that book. I just had to have that thought in my head and think. I worked on the fact that she had such a belief, and that if I had the ability to talk with the spirit world as clearly as I had it, then I too had to believe. But it didn't come overnight. It took me years to find that belief. And you know, you'll find 3 negatives, you've got to find 4 positives. So you're always looking at balancing your scales when you're coming up through this to find your belief. But you know, an individual has to find their own way to that God source within. All right, it took me a long time. But that with Emma Get Off the Train, I was invited to go over to Israel, and it was during the period when there was a lot of conflict in Israel. And again, Gordon said, well, somebody needs to go, Mavis, so it might as well be you. So Mavis went, okay. And I remember thinking, and I think that's when Emma became, the proof of Emma became real to me, because I kept thinking, well, Mavis, you've got to do this. You've got to do this for the spirit world. You've got to do this for the spirit world. Have a faith in them. And that's how I got to Israel, all right, with Emma Get Off the Train and the spirit world and the communication, all right. So it didn't come overnight, sweetheart. Your belief comes through the amount of contact you have, the purity of the love that comes through to you from the spirit world, your belief in the God source, and the opening of that soul of yours, and let it whisper and tell you, you can believe, you can trust. but it won't come overnight. And when you've been through conflict and you've been through pain like you've been through, it will take time. You know, in this pandemic, we're looking at this pandemic, aren't we? And I'm sure there must be people that believe in God and believe in the world of the spirit, and yet are thinking, why on earth is this happening? You know, where is God in all this? Okay, there will be people thinking like that. And it's only really as we come through it and we look back and we see the good that God has done to get us to the point that we're at now, that He's guided us through. Okay, so belief is a very, very individual passage of time, I would say. All right, darling. But Emma, get off the train work for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tamara. A great question there, and I'm sure very useful to so many people as well, and to hear that response too. I'm going to ask Julie now to unmute her microphone and to ask your question to Mavis. Hi, Julie.
Hello, my lovely. Hello, Mavis. Good
Hi,
evening. I, like you, since I was about 10 or 12, I've always been a physical medium, natural medium, whatever people called me over the years. I've never actually done anything with it, however, but I'm really interested in more in the philosophy side. So are there any courses that are coming up at Stansted that just teach philosophy, or is it just development and all that sort of thing?
Oh, I think you've got the president of the Spiritualist National Union.
I know. That's why I asked it.
That question, darling. And like I said, you know, the college has changed, and I'm sure David will agree, because David wants to bring the philosophy back. He's working very hard to get the philosophy up and running again. And it's hard work because we've got so many people that just want the mechanics of mediumship. That's all they want. They don't want anything else. And it's like he's got to balance these scales so that, you know, he keeps the scales balanced. But I'm sure David would tell you it's his joy to build the philosophy up again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To answer you, Julie, there are elements of philosophy in a lot of the courses, but we have found in the past, when you actually advertise a course purely as the philosophy, it doesn't tend to get very well booked up. Which is a challenge. But I can tell you honestly, I'm passionate about philosophy, just like Mavis, and so important in our future, because even though mediumship is such a fundamental part of what we do, philosophy takes it, in my mind, to a whole new level. And that is, and it's to find a way of the expressing of the spirit world, and you know, to be able to do that through the philosophical teachings is quite amazing. And don't forget the Barbanel Centre. We do run courses there, and with them being small, sometimes that is something that we can bring in and embrace, because it is so important. And I'm personally a great advocate of the need for philosophy. So
I would have thought it'd be the grounding bit.
Well, it should be. It should be. Yeah. But you see, like we say, it's like everybody wants instant coffee. They want instant mediumship. They want to be an instant star. They want. They want to be working at the college. You know, I mean, I'm sorry, David, I don't mean to get on this tack, but they want to work at the college, but they want to work as a college as a medium, not as a philosopher, not as a true teacher. You know, a true teacher puts both sides of the coin in. So you should have 50-50 really. So every course should have half philosophy and half mediumship for me.
Yeah. I would have thought so.
I-
Was
I-
it like that years ago then? What was it? You know, back in the days, was it
my day,
philosophy?
darling, it was all philosophy. It was all the theory of spiritualism. It was
Lovely.
all the history of the medium, of the pioneers. It was all the history of the physical mediumship. You know, everything was there. But you know that the churches could hold it, but whether they would be able to fill it with the philosophy, and it's a problem we've got. People want to be the medium; they don't want anything else. That's
Maybe it's because I've had it all my life. I just sort of take it in my stride, the physical side of it, you know. I mean, when I was 12, my mother took me to the doctor. I remember it vividly. And in those days, your mother used to actually come into the doctor's surgery with you, didn't she? And I remember him saying, he said, Mrs. Booth, there is no medicine that I can give to your daughter. You know, because I thought I had an imaginary friend or whatever they used to call it in those days.
well, joy Club Julie. That's where I'm okay. But thanks for your question. I think that it was very, very important. I just wish we had the opportunity. I'm sure David would agree with me. We had the opportunity to put the philosophy in and to put the theory of mediumship in. Mechanics all the time. But like David said, you just don't fill the college, and the college has to be full.
Yes,
Thank you very much. Thanks for your question, darling.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you for answering.
Alf?
Thank you very much, Julie. We're going to move over to Ashley now, who I've been chatting in the chat box. I'm going to ask you to unmute your microphone and to ask your question. Go ahead, Ashley.
Hi, yeah, sorry, I'm using my other half Zoom. I just wanted, because spiritualism, we have a great message of eternal progress that's open to every human soul. And I know many times you go to many wonderful churches and many lovely services, but I'm just wondering, is there a way that we can try to push to be or show that inclusive message? Because I think, you know, it's amazing if it, and I think I've read quite a few books, and I read the book that was out about you, Mavis, and, you know, where you said you went to Israel and stuff like that. So it's amazing to see how we can show mediumship to different faiths and different groups and say to people, it's not just a particular type of people, or particular type of group of people that can receive a message from spirit. That actually, it doesn't matter what your faith is or your background or your anything. And that, because there's a lot of religion out there that's being quite divisive, whereas we can be quite open and welcome people in. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on trying to show people that actually we're a very open, loving religion.
Well, I've got to tell you, Gordon was a great one for talking about the Bible. I know more about Samson and Delilah probably than you do, okay? And he wasn't afraid to talk about Hinduism, Muslims. He would talk about any religion. And what he did was he extracted the truth from each religion. And what he believed is that every religion has a truth. If we could just extract the truth from every bit of religion, then we'd have a faith that would change humanity totally. But if you make a commitment to be a spiritualist, that's what you are. So you are, when I go out, I promote spiritualism because that's my faith. Does it mean I wouldn't talk about over Christmas? I'm already organizing a Christmas talk. And I will be talking about Jesus, and I will be talking about the birth, and I will be talking about the miracle of the wise men and all those things, because it's important. It's the history of mediumship. If you look at the Bible itself, what Gordon taught me was that running through every part of the Bible, you will find mediumship. You can't escape it. You know, it's only mankind that changes everything. But I do agree with you that, you know, there is a lot of truth in everything. But once you become an officiant or you become committed to spiritualism, then that's what you actually say you are going to promote, is your belief. But we include every belief. We exclude no one. And no one would ever be excluded. You know, the Lyceum Manual at the turn of the century, if you've got a Lyceum Manual, and I would suggest you get one because of the question you asked me, if you get a Lyceum Manual, read it, you'll find that it's got every religion in that Lyceum Manual, and it is covering that personal responsibility, that continued existence of the human soul that's running through every religion. And that will never be wiped out in spiritualism. It will always be there. It will always be there, love. So there's hope for us yet. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley, for raising that point and asking that question. I'm going to
down here, who's had his hand up for such a long time. I don't know.
Won't see this.
Oh, you won't see it, will you, Al? I do beg your pardon, but his hand's been going up and down, and he's called Nell and Amanda. So if we could perhaps put them on our list, that would be lovely.
Yeah, I will make a note of that. I'm going to.
You're frustrated, aren't you?
I shall bring him in shortly. I'm going to ask Helen Van Hoof to unmute her microphone and to come into the room and talk to Mavis.
Hello, Mavis.
Hi.
Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Thank you. Mavis, I may have a bit of a strange question. As we, oh, my dog started to bark, I'm so sorry. As we progress, and obviously we progress in our trust and our awareness and our connection to our spirit guides. In that progression, do our guides progress themselves, or do they stay the same, but because our minds open up in a different way, we're more receptive to their different level of knowledge? Do you understand the question I'm asking?
Yes, I do. And
Okay,
yes,
good.
they'll always seek clarification from a higher mind.
Okay.
They'll always be looking for that. Okay, and that's the beauty of the guides and the inspirers over there, is that they will always look and search. So yes, they are evolving as we are evolving, because it's a partnership. That's what we're in with the guides and inspirers. We're in a partnership, and that partnership can be very, very strong if we work together with that partnership. And that's what I love about it. But yes, but just a quick humorous part with that, Helen. I remember saying to Mika-san, that's my control who works with me.
I remember him, yeah.
Yeah, I call him the managing director, really. He's the chair. Okay. And I remember saying to him, well, why did you choose to work with me? He said, because I had to learn patience.
I'm sure my guide would reply the same.
So even with the guides and inspirers, these lovely, lovely, highly evolved souls, it doesn't mean to say they haven't got a sense of humor.
Sense of humor.
And that's the beauty of this. All right, Helen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mavis.
You're welcome, darling. You're welcome.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you for asking that question. I'm going to read some questions out now from the chat box for Mavis. So Mavis, Yoko asks, how do you deal with people who are perhaps unkind or rude because they don't have a belief in mediumship or spiritualism? So I guess that's, you know, the many people who are skeptical about what we do as spiritualists.
Well, I think I grew up in the right age, really, because we were coming to the end of the harassment that spiritualists had. But I do remember trying to get into a town hall where there was a woman saying, don't suffer a witch to live, and you are evil, and holding the Bible up in front of me. And I remember turning to Gordon, and well, I didn't. Gordon came back and got me by the scruff of the neck, and he said, come on, move away. Because I wanted to go in and attack, really, because it hurt me. It really hurt me. And he said, if you have to go in and attack in defense of your belief, then your belief is not strong enough. Get up and walk away. And that's what I did. So that's the answer I would give you, is the same answer Gordon gave me. Look, we can't change the world with words, but my actions were, you might be attacking me, darling, but I'm not going to attack you. And I think that that's the only way that we can prove to people that we are who we say we are. All right. And we don't need to go into a battle. We can do it by just gently moving away. And, you know, I used to think everybody had to be a spiritualist. I don't know whether you believe that, but I believed everybody I met, I had to turn them into a spiritualist. And wherever I went, I was spouting spiritualism, 7 principles and mediumship, until I recognized I was losing a lot of friends, okay, because some of them were Catholic and quite happy to be Catholic. Some of them were Christian, you know, Higher Church of England. They were quite happy to be that. They didn't want to become a spiritualist. They didn't want to understand mediumship. And here's me beating my drum. And when the day I stopped beating my drum, and the day they started to really hear what I was saying.
Thank you, Mavis, and thank you, Yoko, for asking that question. We've got a very busy chat box, and Derek is asking Mavis, what kinds of music do you feel should be played in our services? And I know before we came into the meeting, Mavis, you'll talk about missing working in the churches. And Derek asked, do churches need to move to more modern music, or are the traditional hymns still able to uplift us and give us that energy that we need?
Well, that's a difficult one to answer, isn't it? Because for me, our hymns tell a story. They bring us a belief, they give us a strength, they give us a power. So when you're talking about something like God of the Granite, or you're talking about There Is No Death, or the Healing Hymn, or things of that nature, that pulls into my heart. I just love them. I just love our hymns. But I also am very, very wrapped up in country and western. And I don't mind having a little bit of a dance on the platform before I'm doing a demonstration. Okay, I love it. I love to think that we can get up and we can be a bit happy clappy, as Jean doesn't like. But I think it's good for us. And it raises our happiness. It raises our joy. And if we do that, then the joy is going up to the spirit world. So it can only be increasing their joy too. So, you know, I'm not very keen on that hallelujah one that you've got, though, that everybody seemed to love singing, because it sounded a bit doom and gloom to me. I think they should always be bright and happy and uplifting. Okay, but no, I've got no problem. Anytime it's a clairvoyant evening, then I can't see any reason why we can't have songs. I can't see a reason. But if it's a spiritualist divine service, then I feel that the philosophical outpouring from our hymns has a lot to leave with us. The lyrics are very relevant to today, and they will help us today as they help our forebearers yesterday. That's my opinion. Okay.
Wonderful. I think we have time for one more, and of course it's a short question but a big subject, so challenge you here, Mavis, to see if you can answer it quickly. Janet is asking, how can we contact our guides? And I guess that's perhaps something that we all might think of in terms of just feeling that closeness of spirit. Have you got any quick pointers, do you think, that might help us all?
Well, first of all, it's a whole lecture, an hour
Absolutely.
and a half lecture. Okay. And it's a very deep subject. So let me say, I believe if your desire is to make contact with those wonderful souls in the spirit world, and then just allow your soul to rise, just allow your power and your love to pour out, and know that they are always around you anyway. For me, you see, where we go wrong is we think the spirit world makes the connection with us. What I have been taught over the years that I've worked with the spirit is that they do like us to make a contact with them. So if you get your idea, you know who you want to talk to, you open your soul, you open your love and your heart, then that will be drawing the spirit world to you, and it'll draw your guides and inspire us. But do remember, you know, it has to be blending with the spirit world. It can't be, well, I want to talk to my guide so that they can tell me whether I should have that fourth husband, or I want to talk to my guide because I want to know whether I should buy that new car. That's ridiculous. It should always have a philosophical reason that you're making a contact with a guide, okay, or helping to explore where your soul and your spirit is taking you on this journey. That's what I believe.
And you know, as we're almost out of time, Susanna asked the question about where do you see mediumship developing in the next decade or so? And I think what you've just said is an answer to that as well, and what you said earlier. So it's a wonderful rounding off of things. So I'll now hand back to David because we're almost at the top of the hour again.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the hour, as I said, has gone so quickly. It's always a pleasure to have Mavis as a guest. There's never enough time to deal with all the questions that you've got, but I hope that Mavis will perhaps come back and join us again in the future and come and share another wonderful evening with us.
I love it when you invite me. Thank you.
Pleasure, Mavis. Thank you. Can I just give you some dates for your diaries to keep you up to date with what's going on? I'll tell you that on the 16th and 18th of December, we are going to hold a special fundraising event for the Arthur Findlay College, which is the beautiful building behind me. And it's entitled The Spirit of Christmas at the AFC with Mavis. It's a 2-evening special, and your ticket covers you for both evenings. On the first evening, we are going to share some memories of the college from Mavis and also with other guests as well. And then on the 18th, we are going to listen to some thoughts from Mavis and also have a demonstration of her wonderful gift of mediumship. If you would like to join us for that special evening, you can actually buy tickets via the Arthur Findlay College website or contact the college reception. And it promises to be a very special celebration of Christmas with a spiritualist touch. Can I tell you that next Monday evening at 7 o'clock, my guest is Tony Ortson, the editor of Psychic News. Tony is a brilliant friend. He has a great experience within spiritualism, has met some wonderful mediums over the years, and actually worked for one of my great pioneers. I speak, of course, of Maurice Barbanel, and I'm sure we'll have a fantastic evening with Tony. On the 14th of December, we're going to go into the science of spiritualism, and we're going to be joined with the crew from Northampton, Professor Chris Rowe and 2 of his students who are just about to embark on their PhDs that are both going to be related to spiritualism and mediumship. I'm sure that will be a fantastic evening. On the 21st of December, we are going to have a spiritualist Christmas special. It's all in the planning stage at the moment, so we'll let you know more of what we plan as it develops, but that's the 21st. And on the 28th of December, we're going to touch on a subject that spiritualists either don't believe in, they do believe in, or they're not quite sure. But I promise you a fantastic and interesting discussion. We're going to talk about reincarnation, and I'm sure that there'll be many people interested. We've got a very strong panel for that evening. It'll be a panel discussion, and I'm sure you'll enjoy that evening. So that's really the rest of December all lined up and ready to go. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. My thanks again to Mavis. My thanks to Jean, who is, I know she's off screen. It's her birthday today. So can we all send many happy returns to Jean, and thank you for giving up your birthday evening so Mavis could come and be with us. God bless.
You, darling. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, David. Happy birthday, Jean. And what a thrill it's been tonight to have Mavis with us and to be able to ask her all these questions and to hear her responses. And I was just saying earlier, when I first went into Spiritualist Church for the very first time, as a nervous 16-year-old, Mavis was the medium who was the speaker for the very first divine service I attended. So it's, you never know where you're going to end up. I never thought I would end up chairing a meeting with Mavis in it, so it's wonderful. Thank you all for joining us. It's been a really busy chat box this evening, and we've had people from around the world. Such a great interest worldwide in spiritualism. It's fantastic. This session has been recorded, so we're going to place it on our Facebook page soon and on our YouTube channel, which is SNUI Film. Please follow us on our social media channels. We have an Instagram page and we have a Twitter account, and you can find that by searching for @SpiritualistSNU. And our Facebook page is the Spiritualist National Union. Don't forget to visit our website for the latest news and happenings, which is snu.org.uk. And we also have an online branch. It's been mentioned in the chat box this evening. Someone was asking about where can I explore philosophy, which we've been talking about this evening. There are opportunities to study and explore philosophy on our online branch, which is SNUI. And you can find SNUI at snui.org. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll look forward to seeing you again next week, and God bless. Have a great week. Take care of yourselves, and bye-bye.